When you first start collecting Marvel Legends, it can be incredibly frustrating and confusing as you try to figure out what you want to buy. Since its inception over 20 years ago, over 800 figures have been released. To be exact, if you would have bought every figure that was released in 2020, you would have bought 128 figures and spent over $3,000. Even if you have enough money allocated to go towards collecting this line, year after year, you're eventually going to run out of storage and display space. Whether you're a new or an old collector, this can really suck the joy out of the hobby for you very quickly. I'm a 20-year veteran of collecting toys, but as many of you know, I've only gotten into this line in the past 2 or 3 years. So I'm really feeling the stress here of, oh my god, do I go back and try to buy a bunch of figures? How do I do this? Oh, it's so frustrating! But I figured it out. I figured out a way to start collecting this line in 2021 without going completely broke, and I've boiled it down into 5 steps. And in this video, I'm going to go through all 5 of those steps, and by the end, you're going to be pumped to go buy some Marvel Legends without going crazy. Let's do it. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to If it's your first time here, this channel is all about collecting toys and just celebrating our love of all things nerdy. Real quick, a big thank you to Andrew Clark, who is the first Nerdzoic Jedi Master Level channel member. Thanks, bud. Welcome aboard. Before I get into the 5-step collecting program I put together here, I did want to say that a lot of these steps are completely applicable to other toy lines. You just got to change a couple things up. So if you don't collect Marvel Legends, but you're having the problem of like FOMO and just not having enough money to go around, this video can still help you. So make sure you stick around and just change some things up. All right, step 1, you're gonna brainstorm the reason you wanna collect figures. So grab a sheet of paper, open up the notepad on your phone, and just start writing down why you wanna get into this. Some things to think about: are you planning on getting into toy photography? Are you gonna be building and setting up dioramas? Are you gonna be collecting mint on card, which is, in the box, or loose? Maybe you want to be a customizer and you're really good at artsy stuff and you're going to do repaints on the face and just make figures that don't exist out of the bases that already do exist. Maybe you're only going to collect Toy Biz because you remember going to the toy store back in the day and that was the toys that were there, and you're going to stay away from Hasbro. All of these things will help you as we move on to the next steps. Here's why. So for example, if you're going to be a customizer or a toy photography person, you could care less the condition of the packaging of the toys you're buying in. So it is way cheaper to buy loose than mint on card. Not just from a value standpoint, but there's also the fact of shipping. Shipping a figure in a little plastic sandwich baggie that goes into a padded envelope is a lot I can't speak English. Is a lot cheaper than shipping a figure in a box in another box. It gets expensive. So if you want to build up a collection fast, because you're going to be taking pictures or customizing these things, this is important to know. Save some dough. I just rhymed. No dough, no dough. How about that? The bottom line is, if you have a better idea of why you want to collect and what you're going to do once you start collecting, the rest of this becomes a lot easier. Let's move on to step number 2. So step number 2, we're going to continue to brainstorm. So get another sheet of paper, get another notepad out. This time we're going to brainstorm what characters appeal to us and why. Or it can be specific types of characters. Maybe you just like getting figures from the MCU. Maybe you just like X-Men or bad guys or Avengers, or like the list goes on. There's so many ways to do this. Maybe if you're middle-aged, nostalgia is a big part of this for you. So maybe you're only going to collect characters that you owned as a child. Specifically, maybe you had the Toy Biz counterparts in the 90s, like the old retro X-Men or Spider-Man figures. Maybe that's all you're going to collect. Maybe you're just going to collect people from the Spider-Verse. Maybe you're just going to go through and try to get one of every major character. That's what I'm doing. Either way, knowing exactly what characters appeal to you before you start figuring out what you want to buy is going to make things a lot easier. So, to recap, we've done a lot of brainstorming. Step 1, we brainstormed about why we want to collect and what we're going to do when we start collecting, and we've brainstormed about what characters or types of characters appeal to us. Let's move on to step number 3. In step 3, what we're doing is we're going to go and look at some common focuses and see if any of them appeal to us. So some common focuses I already mentioned: MCU. Marvel Cinematic Universe, that is. But that can be broken down further. Maybe you can just do Avengers movies. You can only buy people who appeared in Avengers movies. Maybe you're only going to buy people who appeared in the Netflix Daredevil, Punisher, all of their shows. Whatever it is, these are all very common categories of collecting that you can consider. Take a look and just go through them. So some other ideas that I jotted down for you, just to kind of get the juices flowing. We already said Avengers, X-Men, Spider-Verse, Fantastic Four, just the family even. You could do villains. You could do line-based. If you really enjoy Build-A-Figures like I do, you could just collect Build-A-Figures. You don't have to buy all the figures to build them, just buy the parts. Speaking of lines, what about retro carded lines? Like for me, I'm so into these retro cards right now. I love the X-Men retro cards, I love the Spider-Man, and I haven't gotten it in yet, but I have the Doctor Doom retro pre-ordered, and I'm pretty positive we're getting the Fantastic Four this year, so I look forward to getting them. All right, now that you have all these brainstorms and all these ideas, it's time to whittle down your list. It's time to go down and just say, okay, what exactly do I want to collect? We're going to do more of this in step number 4, but you might want to get down to a character or a faction or whatever from what we've already talked about in all of your brainstorming and knowing what you're doing with your figures. All right, step number 4. This might be the most important step. This is what will separate you from going crazy by just buying things on impulse and having a set plan and really getting enjoyment out of your collection. You need a good set of rules. I steal this from Matt Cardona over at the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. He's got a crazy set of rules. It's not even that crazy, but he's got a very specific set of rules of what figures he buys so that he's not buying every figure for wrestling for him that Mattel puts out. So what you're going to do now is you're going to start to make a set of rules around your focus.
Smokey, this is not Nom, this is bowling. There are rules.
Hey.
It can be, I'm only buying Thors. I'm only going to buy Thors that are not looking like Chris Hemsworth, but look more like comic book Thor. For me, again, my rule, I only buy one of every major character unless they have major differences in their versions, but I go for the definitive version. So for example, if it's X-Men, I usually go straight towards the Jim Lee X-Men. So I want a blue tiger stripe Wolverine. I want a 92 style X-Men Beast and Cyclops. If we're looking at Avengers, I'm just going for the one that I think represents the comic style the best. So Thor, as an example, I think the 80th anniversary is the best Thor we've gotten that's comic style. So that's my Thor. See where I'm going with this? So start working on your rules and figuring them out. Don't worry, you don't have to finalize them yet because step 5 will kind of push us back to step 3 and 4 at some point. So this is all a process. Don't stress out. A big part of having rules is also having goals. So my goal for 2021 with Marvel Legends collecting is I want to try to have a full X-Men team by the end of the year, as far as like major definitive characters. This includes both movie X-Men and comic X-Men. What's your goal? Let me hear about it in the comments. I'm curious to know. Come on, are you still with me? Let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. Hey, if you're still with me, give me a thumbs up, because this is a different kind of video. I don't do many like this. I want to make sure you're, I don't know, enjoying it and getting something out of it. All right, step 5. Step 5 is the fun part. This is where you make a wish list. Start making a wish list of every figure you'd have to buy, past and present, in order to fulfill your collection. Always look at upcoming figures first as you're making your wish list, because you don't want to go back and buy a figure that's coming out again and getting re-released. You also don't want to overpay. There's no reason that Hasbro's not going to continue to re-release the same figure over and over, so don't go back and pay a ton for a figure. For example, for me, I'm not going to pay $50 for a Jim Lee Beast when I know they're probably going to make another one in a year or two. Same with the Cyclops. Make sure you're thinking like that. If they come out with a better version and you have an old version, no problem. That's where you upgrade. Say I already had the Beast and they come out with a better Beast, well, I'm selling my old Beast and buying the new Beast. And last but not least, I talked about it a little, set your completion goal as part of step 5. Be realistic, don't go over your budget, but doing all of this will make it so much more fun in the hobby. And when you find deals so that you can fit extra things in there that's in the budget, but more than you thought you were going to be able to get, that's even better. And there's going to be things you can't afford. That's okay. I have a list that's called my someday maybe list. That's where I have things like Galactus and Fin Fang Foom. Just in case they never come out again, I would someday maybe like to have one. I hope you found this very valuable. Till next time, be cool, stay nerdy. Oh yeah, check out these videos if you haven't already.